Well, my name is Angela Taylor, and I go by Angie. And I started out at Pathfinder like 12 years ago. So I've been here a total of 13 years. I left for a year and then came back about a year ago. And what I do now is I am the supported employment coordinator, which means that I hire all of the job instructors and help the individuals that we work with get jobs, as well as sometimes trying to find business opportunities for them. For instance, we have a small crew that is cleaning our apartments and getting paid to do that. So Pathfinder has hired them, and we are working with them that way. We also have a contracts division, and we have quite a few clients working in that division. And they have job coaches, job instructors, is what we call them these days. And I also do all of the training for the job instructors that we hire, no matter where they work in Pathfinder or out in the community. About 13 of those job instructors are through this office. So there are a few that are supervised by Cassie over in contracts. And so I do all the scheduling. I match them up with individuals to help them find a job, do all the training and supervising of those individuals. And then I'm also the assistant director here, so I do whatever else my boss tells me to.
Great.
Other duties as assigned.
Great. Now, tell us a little bit about Pathfinders and what Pathfinders does. I know you mentioned that you are involved in
Sure.
supported employment. Can you expand on that a bit?
Pathfinder tries to help the individual from the beginning all the way through their lifespan. So we almost become a part of that person's family. We've gotten a lot bigger as a result. So we have 2 preschools, and one is here in Jacksonville, one is in Little Rock. We have 10 ICF, MRs is what it used to be called, ICFDD now, intermediate care facility for the developmentally disabled. And those facilities are 24-hour facility. They always have staff, and they're training them on life skills constantly, trying to get them to the skill level where they can move into their own apartment. And so that's the ICF. We have 10 of those across the state. And then we have 8 apartment complexes and 3 group homes in this section, which is residential. And that's our community piece. We also have 17 slots for individuals who are out in the community. And so we administer those HUD slots.
Now, when you say slots, are these openings where you provide actual employment?
No, those slots are for housing.
All right.
And then, of course, we have the contracts division that provides employment for individuals with disabilities. All of Pathfinder, wherever we can, we try to hire someone with a disability. For instance, we have a young man who works upstairs at the administration building who was one of our first clients. He was in our preschool back in 1971. And today he works in our accounting division, and he has cerebral palsy, and all he can do is move his head, and that's the one thing he has the best control over. And so he has buttons, and he has a computer, and he enters our accounting payables and all of that. He enters all of those vouchers into the computer.
Unsupervised or minimally?
Unsupervised.
Excellent.
He has a projector, and it projects it up onto the wall where he can see it. And he uses his computer and his headgear and enters it directly into the system. So
And
that
it's all
someone
voice activated software and so on, and
no voice activated. He does it all. He can't speak actually.
all right.
So it's actually his computer talking device that does that he manages, that does his work for him. So it's not actually a speaking device, because he wouldn't be able to use that.
I understand. How many employees does Pathfinders have?
Around 1,200.
Around 1,200. Excellent. Of those 1,200 employees, can you share with us about how many of those are employees that may have physical or mental impairments, like your accounts receivable person?
I know in our contracts division it has to be 75%, because we have federal contracts that require that. And there's about 200 of our employees are in that. So 75% of 200, and then
So that's 50. I'm sorry, 150.
150.
Yeah.
Right. And so we also have other things. We have in the contracts division, we have a federal contract with the VA, and we do their switchboard, and we have 2 or 3 individuals there that have vision issues, and so they have the monitors that make everything larger. They have several adaptive things that they use when they work. Let's see. And then we actually hire a lot of our clients in our custodial, and that is at least another 50. And then as far as out in the actual hiring force, we don't document whether they have a disability or not unless they come forward and say, I need this or that accommodation. So I wouldn't know other than that.
Very good.
So I know of at least 200.
Now, of your 1,200 or so employees, how are they hired? Do they simply come in and submit an application? Is a resume required? Do you utilize classified ads, the internet? What's your system?
We have the internet. We have our application online, where you can go in and actually fill out an application online. And we encourage everyone to do that, and have 2 computers out front of in our administration building. We have 2 computers out there where people can go in and actually sit down and apply. We do put ads in the paper, and we are on some of the websites that are out there, and I think that it's mainly the ones that just go and get you from the newspaper anyway. But I know that I've seen applications where people said that they had found us on Indeed.com, which is one of those websites that does the job thing.
Yes.
I don't know that we have a contract with any specific one.
How long have most of your employees been with the company, on the average?
It depends on what division you're talking about.
Do you see a high turnover rate?
In some of our areas, we do have a higher turnover rate than others.
Which jobs would those be?
Transportation. It's one of our lower paying jobs. The workshop. Again, it's the lower paying jobs that you would normally see a high turnover in anyway. We do have quite a few people who have been here over 20 years. When you're talking about accounting, administration, people who are out in the community that live like out in Batesville and those areas. You see most of our administrators have been here for 10 plus years. And so our leadership definitely is in the higher double digits, most of them.
Excellent. How often do you have job openings?
All the time.
Right.
One of the higher turnover rates is at the preschool. And I think that's common for preschools. And then, like I said, the other waiver, because sometimes the clients and the families themselves, they make those decisions. And if they have a person who's working with them that they're not getting along with, or, you know, something happens, people move, all of that kind of thing, that's where you're going to see the higher job openings. And then we have mental health facility as well. And we do mental health in the schools.
Is that your other Pathfinders location?
Yes. We actually have several locations. The big administration building is on the corner. Behind that is our workshop. And right before that is the preschool, which is kind of off the road, back off the road. So unless you're looking for it, you might not see it because it's like not front property. We do own all of that. We own about 10 acres on our, what we call our, I can't think of the name of it. It's what schools call their grounds or whatever.
Your campus?
Campus, that's the word. We have about 10 acres on the campus area, and a lot of that is wooded. But so we have room to expand even more, which is a good thing.
So you provide commercial services for the community, for daycare, but you also employ daycare providers. Would that be correct?
We employ daycare staff.
Daycare staff.
Right.
All right.
And our preschools are both a mix of individuals with disabilities and non-disabilities. So they're integrated. And we also have an academy. So if the campus is here, across the street is where our transportation and waiver and purchasing is. And then if you go down to the next block on the left is our academy, which is new, and we're real excited about it. It is new, and it is a academy for children with autism, 10 to 14 years old.
Excellent.
Most of them are on scholarship. It is a private facility because we are looking into magnet and that kind of thing, charter and all of that. But for now, we're doing it as a pilot program as that. And we have 10 children, and they have smart boards, they have iPads, they do art, they go out in the community and do things. It's an amazing program. They have the listening devices for children with autism. We've made some really good strides with the children that are there. And of course, we also offer PTO, physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy, as well as having mental health available if they were to need that. And that's all integrated into our workshop and our preschools and the academy. So they can get that in any of those places.
Sounds like you offer a lot of services.
We try to make sure that we're working with the entire individual.
Well, we're
not
on
just this piece or that piece. So we do work. I mean, we have the workshop, which is contracts that we get, like with Maybelline and L'Oreal, and they check the stuff and make sure it's right. We have packaging contracts. We have labeling contracts with some paint companies. We have a contract where someone approached us, and the 55-gallon drums.
Yes.
We do the rubber that goes around that seals them.
The gaskets.
Yes. So our guys measure out we get in the big tube of the tubing, and the guys measure it out, cut it, and glue it, and it goes on. So we do a lot of those kind of things, and they actually get paid a commiserable rate for some of the jobs there. Right. Now, some of the piecework, the Maybelline stuff and that, they get a piece rate. But we do have several jobs, and we hire them for jobs within the community, like, within the workshop. Like, we have a couple of guys that work on the dock. We have a couple of guys that come over and take the guy from the accounting department on his break, and they get paid for that. So it's we try to make sure that we are helping them work however level they can and work them towards the community all the time.
Now, while we're on the subject of structuring to support all of the employee needs, has an employee ever requested job accommodations from you?
We have had in the past. We did not. Most of those accommodations were done before they even got to work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was just like as a part of the interview process, we found out they needed a special keyboard or they needed a special mouse or something to that effect. With Mr. With the young man that works in accounting, we actually ordered most of the things he has and paid for most of his accommodations.
Very good.
And we also, a few years back, went into his, well, we didn't go into his house, but his caseworker at the time that was living in his home with him wanted him to have more independence, and Jeff
Yes.
always wants more independence. And so he came to Miss Colleen that used to work here. She was our director then.
Mm-hmm.
And we went online and found all kinds of things that you can plug in to the wall, and so he can turn on his TV himself, turn it off, he can turn his lights on and off, all of that within his home. And so there's a lot of things like that that happen in our apartments as well, because individuals who have waiver, if they need any kind of modification, that can be built into their plan, and we can do it that way. So we do have handicapped apartments for individuals with wheelchairs, and we do have several individuals with wheelchairs that live in our apartments, and we've had other modifications that we've done both in an employee's home and in our apartments.
Okay. Have you ever heard of the Americans with Disabilities Act?
Yes.
What is your overall perception of the act and how you're able to kind of follow some of its guidelines?
The Americans with Disability Act is supposed to allow individuals with disabilities full access to anything someone without a disability has. And Pathfinder is also CARF accredited, and so we actually on a year-to-year basis look at whether or not we are accessible, both through our attitudes, our buildings themselves, and different things like that. And wherever we can, we try to make accommodations so that anyone who would need them can come in and use the Pathfinder facilities. We're, of course, regulated by Office of Long-Term Care, DDS, HUD. Most of our facilities are HUD facilities. And so all of those things, of course, required us to be accessible in the first place. And then the Americans with Disabilities Act, I mean, anyone with more than 15 employees has to follow that. And so we have gone in and advocated at times in the community for that to be applied. Again, with the employee that we have that's been with us since preschool, had an issue, and Pathfinder's lawyer at the time assisted with that issue. He went into a restaurant here in town, and they asked him to leave because he was disturbing he wasn't doing anything you and I don't do.
Yes.
It was just his disability that was disturbing them. And they were a different culture, and don't know that they understood what ADA was. But we went in and spoke with them on that. And then recently I had an individual who was working with Hastings, and they let him go because he couldn't do the cash register.
What is Hastings, Angie?
It's gone now, but it was a record and book company.
Oh.
And they went out of business like a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
But back in December, they hired him and then let him go because he was not able to do the cash register. And he had a supported employment job coach, and we proved that he didn't actually do the things they said that were his fault. It was actually a computer issue, and they still let him go. And so we wrote several letters and that kind of thing and tried to advocate for them to let him work without actually doing the cash register. And they did not comply with that. But of course they're gone now, so.
Kind of a moot issue,
Mm-hmm.
but the industry in itself has kind of downsized on those retail book and record outlets.
Right.
There's no more Blockbusters.
Right. And Hastings was a little bit of everything. It had a lot of the movies and stuff, and really good prices on their CDs and music. And they were one where you could trade your music in and get bucks and all that kind of thing. And they had books, and they even had used books, so you could trade your books in and that kind of thing. But they didn't make it. There's still one in Conway and I think Benton.
So of the employees that you have, from bookkeeping to accounting, clerical, management, upper level and mid-level, and even the jobs that you outsource for people that have impairments, and it sounds like that you're an employer or a provider for the state of Arkansas as far as being a vendor, where
We're probably the largest vendor as far as individuals who actually are getting people jobs in the community.
sounds like you're very successful at what you're doing.
We really want to be. I really believe in what we do, and I really believe in getting clients a job that makes them feel like any of us feel when we're doing a job that we like. I want to find something that they like. I want to find something that meets their needs, and something that they can continue in and enjoy, not something that's just, well, we're going to have to stick you here because this is all we can do. It's real important to me, and we always check with our clients. You know, that's the first thing we do when we sit down with them, is we go through a form that we have and ask them, you know, what do you like, what do you not like? Have you done this before? Have you done that before? That kind of thing, and try and assess where they have been, if they've worked before, if they haven't worked before, all of those kind of things, so that we can assess kind of their employability and start working on their skills level, and at the same time trying to find them something to go ahead and get started in. So we do hire them into jobs that they may not necessarily like at first, and get them the experience. We're always still open to finding them something else. So for instance, we have a young lady that's working at Chili's, and she's really interested in working with animals. And so we have her actually volunteering at one of the shelters, and